Hello, everyone. Erik Roth here, shamanic alchemical astrologer, with another episode of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. So, a lot happening astrologically in the world with the movement of the planets and everything that's going on here in this filming of this March 26, 2025, just 3 days before the partial solar eclipse. That there is a video on that, and I'll link that below this, just focused in on that eclipse and a little bit about this last week of March, going into April a bit. But this very, very active time. There's been more information that keeps coming through with the way these planets are aligning up in various different ways and more unique and rare alignments especially in the overarching theme with between November of 2024 through July of 2025, where all of the major outer planets are switching signs from one to another. And Chiron doesn't do it until 2026. And of course, Eris, is still going to be another 20 years before it moves into a new sign. So aside from those, all those other outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto all have either moved into new signs like Pluto and Aquarius back in November, or have yet to do that. So this month this video, we're gonna I'm gonna hone in on April's astrological outlook. So April 2025 outlook. This is episode 66 of Science, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. So yes, let's get into what this presents. And for the Northern Hemisphere, this is really the time when more and more of the plants are blossoming and flowering. And in the Southern Hemisphere, it's where things are starting to go on the decline just post-summer into sort of the descent of fall/autumn. So yeah, let's take a look at this. I've got a lot to share in this video with this upcoming month of April. All right, so yeah, so the main highlights. We're going to do a little bit of a summary of April. Also continue to talk about Pisces alchemy basically throughout this video, which includes the stellium of Aries and Pisces, I should say, which is again continuing from the latter part of February of 2025 through the early part of May of 2025. And Venus and Mercury go direct, part of the major things that are happening here in this situation with we find ourselves here astrologically. More north node activation. There is a lot of conjunctions with the North Node, particularly by Venus and Mercury. Full and new moons. We're going to talk about those as well. Not eclipses, because the eclipses are complete in March until the next eclipse season in September. Mars is coming back to the sign of Leo, and as a bonus, it's going to have its third and final opposition with Pluto during this month. Okay, so the overview of April, this is the astrological energies of March are definitely continuing to carry over into this month of April. Aftermath of the powerful aspects and transitions taking place, with a greater focus on the Piscean archetypal transformation and the sort of that alpha omega point where it transitions from the 29-degree point of Pisces into the 0 degree of Aries, and sometimes back, particularly in the case of Venus and Mercury. Neptune and Saturn will do that later this year when they retrograde back from Aries into Pisces in the September-October time period. So this is setting a new stage that promises more greater uncertainty, but also a sense of building like a greater defense of what is just and right, combined with an expanding heart and a connection to a higher purpose. So there's something brewing, something percolating, something coming through in response to the this shift that's been happening, and even the sort of the illusions that have been built up over the many years since, particularly since Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces, and with that near 3 year period of Saturn in Pisces as well. So the alchemy of this is a slide that going to review and talk about, probably even bring this up for the month of May, just because some of that energy from April carries into May with this Aries-Pisces. So this is, between Pisces, a passive sign archetype that expresses itself through compassion, empathy, and dreams, trying to manifest that into reality, and it operates from a space of being of service. Whereas Aries is a powerful initiator in the world, assertively driving headlong into mission and purpose, where they purely instinct. They don't really use, rely so much on the sort of the intellectual processes that go into making decisions. It doesn't they don't obviously avoid that, but it's more, Aries is much more focused in on the sort of the present moment and initiation of the energy and working with that strong energy to fulfill something. And so together, this can idealize in a healthy expression to more of a heart-centered force of nature, overcoming obstacles with great compassion and a belief in a much higher purpose. So, this has to do with this alchemy. Alchemy is, in a traditional way, there was certainly alchemists in very ancient times, and modern day alchemists that do this, particularly in more of on a energetic psychological level, but archetypally, it's present within us all. And we all have different signs within us that are continuing trying to alchemize, and sometimes sort of separating themselves and confronting and combating each other at times as well. But at other times they find purpose, they find a common ground, they find something that they can work with in harmony. And this is sort of the intent of this energy together between Pisces and Aries. All right, so the first really big thing that happens in April is on April 7th at 26:49 Pisces. This happens at 4:07 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And you can see here in the chart, it's sitting right between 1 degree, less than a degree away from the North Node here, and then just a degree and a half away from Saturn and this Saturn Venus conjunction here. So this is part of like the energy that this is the moment that this is showing up here in early April. So Venus and Saturn, conjunct at this time, and they're also, going to be conjuncting again. So Venus and Saturn. I'll have a graphic that shows the major events that are taking place, so you can kind of get a more of a visual experience with that sort of towards the end of this video. So stay in here watching this. I can show you that, and you could pause it for greater clarification about all of this. So the Mercury stationing direct is this, Mercury has passed between the Earth and the Sun. It's moving from the evening sky and now going to be at this point definitely visible in the early morning sky. And this starts a whole new Mercury synodic cycle. And it'll be a Pisces overtone, just like here coming up on March 29th, 2025, we have Venus rising in the early morning sky, starting a Pisces overtone or meta goddess for that. So Pisces becomes a really strong element of these two inner planets, as they integrate Aries into that whole process as well. So Mercury retrograde and stationing direct, it's a strongly creative process, but it's also a still point when it goes direct or retrograde. There's a point where we're in a kind of a standstill and a moment in mind, a great time of reflection and connection, and looking at the landscape more broadly. And then as it builds up steam in the days after, it really starts to pick up, and so there's a lot more forward momentum taking place. The same thing with the Mercury, not Mercury, but Venus as well. And then we'll have a period where there'll be some days where, all the major planets will be direct. until we get to Pluto going retrograde and so forth. So there's another little period in here where that happens in April after the 14th or 12th when Venus goes direct, as you can see here. Pluto is nearing that point. Mars isn't. Mars is already passed into direct motion. Jupiter's still direct. Uranus, Chiron, Neptune, Saturn. Um, so they're all the major planets are direct, and so it's just a matter of time. We're going to get about a three week period where we're going to have all planets direct. So there's going to be some kind of a reversal of what we have been experiencing and probably a broader level expansion of the heart and compassion and energetically in that space. But the receptive force of Pisces in that way can also move people to do things, to be there, to support, to be of service in any way possible, because it's also in part it's integrating the Aries energy into that space. Now, this isn't taken into account as that Neptune, which is going to be Neptune in Aries on March 30th. I'll be doing a separate video for that. And so in the next couple of weeks, you'll see, a whole video about Neptune and Aries, and I'll be doing one about Saturn as well, and the two combined. So look for that because there's going to be a lot of additional insights, especially in reflections to what happened in the past when these planets moved into the signs of Aries, and when they were last also together in back in all the way back in 1989. So that's something to look at, and throwbacks to periods of like when these things happen and the way they happen. We look to the past for reference to give us clues as to what's coming up in the future. Then we have on the same day that Venus goes direct, we have a full moon taking place. And this full moon, all in the sign of Libra, it's all about sacred relationships, conscious equal partnerships. So 2319 Libra, opposite the sun here at 2319 Aries. But look, if you look here, there's I'm going to be doing a whole video specifically about this full moon with Kaylin Castell as my cohort in doing these particular videos, so about the full moons each month. So we're going to talk more about the Chiron and Eris impact of this, but there's something really profound and like it could be even strongly reactive about this because of the strong Aries component from Eris and Chiron that ends up bringing out greater vulnerability. But this full moon focusing in on relationships and what is our relationship to our vulnerabilities? What is our relationship to our wounds? What is our relationship to others and how we can be there and help and know the needs of them? And even whether it be our sacred beloved in the outer world or our inner beloved within ourselves, and to a greater extent, our communities around us. And as you can see, Venus stationing direct shortly after this full moon experience. And you can see Mercury, North Node, Saturn all lined up here in Pisces. Neptune had just moved into Aries by that point, only a couple of weeks removed from that. So that's really, really profound. And you can see the building of this Mars-Pluto opposition coming in in the month of later in the month of April. So let's go on to some additional slides here. So this saving symbol of the full moon, we move it to I always add one because the saving symbols are 1 through 30, and the degrees are 0 through 29 for switching over to 0 once again. So the saving symbol of 24 Libra is a third wing on the left side of a butterfly. This is taken from Linda Hill in her Sabian Oracle book. She talks about creative overbalance, bodily impairments, handicaps, being light, limpid, fluttering from one thing to another, oversensitivities, oddities, beautiful imperfections, imbalances, one side of the being more perfect than the other. But what is our definition of perfection, right? It's also something to look at. Now, in my interpretation of all of this, also can be strongly about transmutations, like something wants to emerge that hasn't fully formed. Perhaps a third wing could turn into a fourth wing, or that third wing plays a special symbolic role in the role and the way the butterfly is emerging here. So something unknown, something new. This is nature experimenting, attempting to evolve beyond through chaos and potentially a new order. Though it may not be successful, it could also be successful. So it's one of those things where kind of in between realms. Something to note here, and I don't have it here. There's gonna be a greater focus in on that in the full moon video, but the full moon is going to be right next to the star Spica, which is a strong symbol of the priestess and the great earth goddess, and the feminine energy. So really powerful energy being activated in this full moon, like very strongly illuminated here. And this full moon is the fruition of the new moon that had taken or will be taking place here at 9 degrees Aries. So that new moon seeded something that this full moon is going to be expressing. So something to pay attention to keep in mind as we switch from new moon to full moon and then back to new moon again. And on the same day, again, Venus stations direct, and it does this at 24:37 Pisces. And you can see the full moon. This is just, let's see if we see that. So less than an hour, 40 minutes after the exact full moon, we have the exact moment that Venus stations direct. It's already kind of in the process. It barely even moves. So we have that. It's actually 24, that should be 24:37 right here, not 57, just as a note for the graphics here. So there's some error on my part. So the actual degrees is 24:37 for future reference. Okay, so this Venus station direct again has a lot to do with those energies switching back and forth, and a whole new overtone of Venus in the sign of Pisces, the feminine and that strong Piscean energy coming through here for our world. And the heart, the compassion, like how can we be of service? How can we show up? How can we connect into that energy more strongly? Whereas empathy has been, by some, has been sort of what we call like put in a category that it's a negative thing or a bad thing or something to repress in some fashion. We need to get into that sort of that alpha male energy and be strong in that. And there's times for that, but there's also times to recognize and to have compassion, empathy. Without empathy, humanity would not have survived as long as we have. Empathy helps us connect and contribute to community, helps us connect and love and embrace the deeper nature of ourselves beyond just this sort of this primal survival and fear-based energy that that you can see permeating through the world at times, particularly in various leaders that show up in our lives. So this is a chance for us to connect into a greater level of that, so that loving, compassionate, empathic energy being of service. And particularly since it integrates the Aries into this alchemy of Aries in there, it's not going to just roll over and just play dead. It's something that's going to be actively contributing to the world in a big way. Okay, so there are 5 individual conjunctions with the north node of the moon in the month of April. This is really, really rare. So between April 1st and April 23rd, there's 5. April 1st is Venus in the North Node. It kind of bookends all of these. April 3rd, it's Mercury in the North Node. And then again, April 10th, Mercury again. So Mercury kind of hangs around the North Node for over a week, not even getting away from more than a degree away from it. And then on April 21st, we have Saturn in the North Node conjuncting at 2650. And then in April 23rd, we have Venus in the North Node conjuncting at 2654 of Pisces. So this Pisces North Node takes the lead in April. North Node is all about or it could be called the ascending node. It's the node that has to do with the intersection between the moon's orbit and the path of the sun that we see across the sky. And when it lines up with when there is a full or sun moon, a full moon or new moon, then we have an eclipse happening. That's why we're just coming off of this eclipse season. Venus, particularly Venus and Mercury, are going to be involved with the North Node, generally speaking, in and around that eclipse season, but not quite as involved as it normally, sorry, much more involved as it would otherwise be, meaning that they're, especially with the retrograde direct patterns here. So it's really, really strongly evident here. This is North Node's all about destiny, our future, our higher selves as a human collective. What does that mean for us? So it's opening us up to the hearts, opening us our hearts to the oneness that exists all around us. Empathy, compassion are critical to humanity's survival and evolution beyond a polarized world. So, in addition, these conjunctions may help us focus on the importance of recognizing that the material realm is not what it appears to be. This doubt can lead to more questions about reality and realms interconnected with the material world. So, this brings in even levels of question and potentially even showing us what those illusions have created and showing us a way that we can move through with greater compassion, love, and empathy for our not only ourselves but for others as well out into the world. Um, and so these conjunctions are activating this North Node energy, and it's up to us to be able to react and respond in a way that is done through the heart, through love, through compassion, to come into the space and help out our brothers and sisters and kindred spirits out there and beyond. So then Mars goes into Leo between it's April 17th through June 20th. And of course, there's a Pluto uh, Mars opposition that happens. Mars will also square the sun during this time, and then also square Uranus during this period of time. So after spending about 6.5 months dancing between the signs of Cancer and Leo, October through April, Mars finally is moving beyond the sign of Cancer to go beyond that 6 degrees of Leo, which happens in beginning late April into early May, where it's stationed retrograde back in December of 2024. Transit of Mars into Leo welcomes a stronger, active, creative force to be expressed in the world that is again, Leo is about radical, radiant self-love, boldness to be seen creatively in a big way. Leo leads us through that creative vision it possesses, desiring to see it manifest into the world. So it operates through us and within us and working with us in co-creation to bring about those bold visions into the world. Mars will square the sun. Where's the Mars will square the sun on April 20th, 2025 at 112 Leo, while the sun is in the sign of Taurus, helping us to bring this force out into the open. Mars will then square Uranus at 2854 Leo, while Uranus is in Taurus, just less than a month before Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. One of the big major changes, massive changes that's happening this year. And then so we have this, Mars representing the masculine, this active force energy, wanting to express itself and be bolder, bigger, a visionary, but through that, the root of it, creative self-love, and to be able to do it to be in a way to help not just serve itself, but have the ripple effects of serving humanity in a greater fashion. So how this comes through with the strong Pisces and Aries energy, it's going to be a really interesting mix that's going to come through fire and water. Obviously, we know in Mother Nature that creates steam, but there's also kind of that sense of greater emotional reaction happening in the world. but how can we utilize it in a constructive fashion? How can we do it through inspiring others to take action, to be there, and to utilize our gifts and our talents to benefit humanity? The Mars and Leo helps kind of spur that action on in a big way. So the sun also moves into Taurus on April 19th. The season of Taurus now, this is operating in the context of all that Pisces, Aries, and Leo energy that's taking place. And of course, with Jupiter still in Gemini during this time too. So the season of Taurus by itself is helping us connect into abundance, beauty, sensuality, pleasures, and comforts. It's an earth element archetype that desires to know the senses of the physical form or body. During these days of Taurus, the sun moving in Taurus might help balance out the sometimes chaotic alchemy of the Pisces Aries combination and the also that other energy of Leo and Gemini coming through. I think the Taurus tends to slow us down a little bit, kind of settle in, but I don't know if we're going to be really settling in all that much in a big way during this season, but there could be some moments in here the sun's energy could be really end up becoming really, really helpful. Taurus is driven to feel good in the physical reality, working hard in safety and security to protect its pleasures, beauties, and comforts. So it could be helpful during this time to put some attention to focus in on the beauty around us, the comforts around us, what exists, in our lives that we are comfortable with, or are we over comfortable in some ways? Are we too comfortable? Maybe the other energies are there to help us kind of break free from just being overly comfortable into something where we can kind of move the energy, get the metabolism going, to take some action and stimulate the other creative energies that are within us. And Taurus is certainly not an exception to getting things done, but it has its own motion and way that it does this, and it's a strongly artistic sensual energy. So working with form and particularly physical form is really important for Taurus energy to express itself. Then on April 26th, we have the Mars-Pluto opposition here, and you can see is at 348 Aquarius Leo. And you can see the lineup is still pretty strong. Even the moon here being in Aries just before the new moon the next day, we still have quite a bit to go with the Pisces Aries alchemy. But this is the third of the Mars Pluto oppositions. And, of all the aspects in a chart, there's a few that really stand out as far as like really intense, strongly felt energy. And Mars Pluto oppositions definitely have that vibe. So, in this space, this could be something like in a time uh, here, a time period where there's some really powerful, maybe powerful event that happens or experiences that kind of send out like shock waves through our lives and into the world. When you ever get these two together, there's this definitely like a strong cathartic response into with something wanting to kind of just in general move the energy and get things accomplished. And so here we have this, and I just want to talk about. Um, Mars Pluto oppositions and other hard aspects can be the authors of powerful challenges and cathartic releases into the world. The energy between these two planets also desires to be expressed into humanity. Mars is an actional force, while Pluto is all about facing fears and shamanic death rebirth. In the signs of Leo and Aquarius, this can open up new territory for innovation and experiment, along with shining a light onto a creative new vision. However, it is in dealing with the fears and the trappings within us that need to be faced first before really a more strong, healthy release can be found, and one that can actually help us maybe heal and work with something that can be have a beneficial impact in not just our own personal lives, but in the community that we live in as well. The new moon happens the day after the Mars-Pluto opposition. It happens at 7:46 Taurus. Um, Again, this is really an important new moon, I think, especially just after we get to the that Pluto Mars opposition. This is the symbolic energy of this is 8 Taurus, a Sabian symbol, a sleigh without snow. This is a really fascinating symbol. There's all kinds of things that can be interpreted as, but as Linda Hill does in her Saving Oracle, and just as a note for those that aren't aware, a lot of her influence in writing that book came from Dane Rajar, Mark Edmund Jones, and there was another person that worked, a woman that worked with Mark Edmund Jones. I can't remember the top of my head, but they influenced her work in coming up with a new Sabian Oracle that has a lot of connections to the work of those three astrologers and seers in the world. So independence from outer circumstances, using the creative mind to work through momentary shortages or problems, anticipating future conditions, having a vehicle but not the time, energy, or the fuel, improvising things so that they work better or ahead of their time, gas, oil, fuel, snow, the value of timing, or a lack of resources. So all those things can be true with this a sleigh without snow, but it can also be in the sense of I like the anticipating future conditions. It's almost like this greater preparation, but also an idea of like an innovative version of trying to have fun in a way that is, that not many people do. So how do you work with that? And this is a way of coming up with some creative solutions. And it's very physical. There's a very physical part of that. The sleigh without snow here on the earth, sitting in the grass or on the dirt or on a rock. It's sitting there waiting to be utilized, anticipating and just that moment to moment. And when the time is right, that Taurus way, when the time is right, the time is right to connect into that energy. Now, this new moon will take place in the Ram constellation, just above Cetus the Whale. So it's a part of the sky that has transitioned from very watery energy into a more earthy energy, sort of that crossroads into that earth and water, with the whale or the Leviathan that Cetus is just below where this new moon takes place. So there's definitely a very strong significance of transition here with the this particular symbol of the new moon here. All right, so if you waited long enough to see the movements of the planets here, this is showing you all the major activities that are taking place here. So it starts off with this Venus North Node conjunction on the 1st and ends with Venus coming back into Aries on the 30th of April. Other highlights, we see the full moon with Venus stationing direct on the 12th, Mars and Leo on the 17th, um, a Venus-Saturn conjunction on the 24th, and Mars-Pluto opposition on the 26th. And in the green highlighted area is the Sun in Taurus. So if you're wanting to kind of tune into some major events, these are the major events that are taking place in the month of April. Doesn't mean any of the other days don't have, some kind of significant aspect, but in an overview, you're not gonna have everything listed here. Um, May is going to certainly feature some big things. Pluto will go retrograde that month. Saturn will move into Aries, and uh, the Venus cycle starts to really develop in a bigger way, moving beyond the sign of Aries into Taurus as well. So a lot of activities happening in the month of May and continuing through the rest of the year. But April's a really, really big month of there's some intense moments in the month of April. And there's also some feel good moments, some things that help us slow down and connect with our heart. And maybe even get a connection or a vision of what we could maybe potentially see in the future for ourselves and the role that we play in our lives, but also in our communities, our families, and for humanity in around the world. So just as a reminder, the alpha and omega points here, I've got them highlighted. There's two times where this happens, and that's has a lot to do with Venus coming in and out of the sign of Aries, but also Mercury as well. So Mercury and Venus as well, coming back and forth over that area. Um, so May is going to feature that as well. We can see um, in May we've got Saturn, we've got let's see, not Mercury, but I think Ceres also does this in moves into the sign of Aries on May 16th. So that's something I'll highlight in for the month of May. All right, well, thank you all for being a part of this, for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you do, and share it with others that might be interested in learning about astrological happenings taking place and how it might apply to parts of their own life. I'm a professional shamanic alchemical astrologer doing readings for a living. I live in Southern Oregon, but work up and down the West Coast of the US a lot of the time and doing holistic and psychic fairs and presentations and classes, both online and in person. I also co-teach online courses with Caitlin Castell at mystaralchemy.com and definitely connect into some of my other videos on YouTube and just look out for the Neptune Aries video and the full moon video that I'll be doing with full moon in Libra that I'll be doing with Kaylin coming up in the next week or two. So again, thank you all, and I hope you guys are staying well and being safe out there, and fulfilling and living your soul's role and tapping into discovering what that could even be if you're not. So this is a process of really this year really kind of connecting into that and going, what is that for me? If you haven't already, this is the time to explore that and find out what that is and honor that path, honor that individuation, that identity, whatever that might be, whatever expression, orientation, whatever that is, just to honor that and to individuate into your unique soul's expression. All right, well, take care, everyone. Be well.